I had just returned from grocery shopping, my arms full of bags and my mind buzzing with the mundane worries of dinner plans and laundry schedules. The driveway looked like any other evening. My husband Derek standing casually by the garage, phone pressed to his ear, his posture relaxed, too relaxed. I slid into the driver's seat of my car, still humming softly to myself, and reached for my phone to check messages. The Bluetooth clicked on automatically. "Hey, can you believe she still thinks I'm committed to her?" I heard Derek's voice echo through the car speakers. My hands froze on the steering wheel. That wasn't just a casual conversation. "Yeah, the plan is working perfectly," a woman's voice replied, sweet and sly. "She's completely unaware. Soon everyone will think she's losing it." I pressed my foot to the brake, my heart pounding. I could feel the blood rushing to my ears, a warm, angry flood. I had known something had felt off lately, but this, hearing my own husband plotting my downfall with another woman, was unimaginable. "You've been careful, right?" Derek's voice was smooth, calculating. "We'll isolate her socially, spread rumors, make her seem unstable. By the time I file, no one will believe her claims. She'll be left with nothing." I gritted my teeth. My stomach churned with a mixture of disbelief and rage. No, this can't be real," I whispered, though the words felt weak even to me. The car's interior felt suddenly suffocating. I wanted to get out, confront him, scream, make him see the monster he truly was. But fear pulsed alongside anger. This wasn't just betrayal. This was premeditated. My life, my reputation, my sanity, all meticulously targeted. I started the car, foot pressing on the pedal as I struggled to control the shaking of my hands. "I'm going to make him pay," I muttered, not entirely sure if I meant emotionally, legally, or just verbally. I pressed my foot harder, intending to drive closer, confront him face to face, make him feel a fraction of the panic I was drowning in. But my foot slipped. The tires screeched. The world spun faster than my thoughts could catch up. The car crashed through the garage wall, splintered wood and concrete flying. The ceiling collapsed, dust filling the air, metal crunching beneath me. I screamed, panic overtaking rational thought. Trapped, I clutched the steering wheel as the car groaned under the weight of debris. The world was silent except for the echo of my own heartbeat pounding in my ears. Hours passed, I lost track of time, and as I lay there, immobilized and terrified, a strange clarity settled over me. Derek's face, smiling and smug in my memory, became something I could no longer recognize. My love for him, once steady and warm, withered completely. The woman who had trusted, who had believed in him, was gone. All that remained was Brooklyn, alive, scared, but unbroken. The paramedics eventually arrived, pulling me free from the wreckage. As they wheeled me away, the sharp sting of betrayal burned brighter than any physical pain. I knew one thing with absolute certainty. My life was no longer mine to waste on Derek's lies. And then he walked into my life, or rather, someone sent him to spy on me and he decided to change sides. Jaxson Stone, cold, precise, and terrifyingly intelligent. He didn't waste time with pleasantries. The first words he said to me were blunt, almost shocking. "He's a monster. And I want you alive, whole, and free. And I want you." For the first time in hours, maybe days, I felt something stir, a mix of relief, curiosity, and desire. The old Brooklyn, naive and trusting, had been crushed under concrete and deceit. The new Brooklyn, sharp, wary, and ready, was just waking up. And she wasn't planning to forgive easily. The hospital room smelled like antiseptic and fear. I woke to the harsh beep of monitors and the soft, steady rhythm of a heart that belonged to someone who wasn't broken, someone who, strangely, seemed calm even when my world had been turned upside down. Jaxson Stone was there, leaning casually against the wall, arms crossed, his dark eyes scanning the monitors with a meticulousness that made my stomach tighten. "Relax," he said, noticing me staring. "You're alive. That's step one." I blinked, trying to process the events of the night. The garage, the crash, Derek's voice on the Bluetooth, everything had happened in a blur of panic and pain. I thought I was going to die, I whispered, my voice shaking. You almost did, Jaxson admitted bluntly, walking closer. And if you had, he would have inherited the perfect story. Brooklyn, unstable, gone. Clean slate for him. But you're here. And he's not getting that satisfaction. His words were sharp, cold, but underneath it, I sensed a strange honesty. No manipulation, no pity, just raw truth. It was disarming. I don't know what to do, I admitted, tears stinging my eyes. Everything I believed, everything I trusted, my voice broke. It's all gone. Jaxson knelt beside the bed, his presence calm but intense. Good. Let it burn. The old Brooklyn is dead, and that's exactly what you need. The new you, she's smart, careful, and she doesn't let monsters like Derek win. I stared at him. His words were blunt, almost ruthless, but there was a strange magnetism to them. And you? You're not scared of me? I asked, my voice barely above a whisper. I'm scared of him, Jaxson said. Not you. You're alive, and I intend to keep it that way. And, he added with a smirk, I'm going to be blunt, I want you. But first, we focus on getting your life back. I didn't know whether to laugh, cry, or punch him. Instead, I nodded slowly. There was something about his certainty that made me feel, for the first time in hours, maybe days, grounded. Alive. Capable. Recovery was brutal. I had broken ribs, a twisted ankle, and more bruises than I cared to count. Physical therapy became my reality. And Jaxson, he was relentless, both in pushing me to regain my strength and in preparing me for the fight ahead. Strength isn't just about muscles, he said one morning as I struggled to stand, sweat beading on my forehead. It's about your mind. About knowing that you're smarter than the people trying to take you down. You've survived the worst already. I tried to smile, but the pain made it sharp and jagged. I feel weak, I admitted, voice trembling. You don't, he said firmly. You've survived betrayal, near death, and lies meant to destroy you. That's not weakness. That's resilience. And I'll make sure the world sees it too. Hours turned into days. Days into weeks. Each session of therapy, each strategy discussion with Jaxson, slowly forged the new Brooklyn. She wasn't afraid anymore. She wasn't naive. And she was beginning to feel something she hadn't dared to allow in years. Trust. One evening, after I had managed to stand unassisted for the first time, Jackson's hand brushed mine. It wasn't accidental. His gaze met mine, dark and intense, and for the first time, I realized the danger wasn't just in Derek. It was in the storm of feelings this man awakened in me, feelings that made my heart race, my thoughts scatter, and my chest ache with longing. You're stronger than you know, he said, his voice low, almost intimate. And I'm not letting anyone take that from you, ever again. Especially him. I nodded, feeling the fire ignite inside me. The old Brooklyn, the naive, trusting wife, had died under concrete and deceit. The new Brooklyn was alive. Smart. Furious. And ready to fight, for herself, her life, and maybe, just maybe, for the man standing beside her. By the time I was cleared to leave the hospital, I knew two things with absolute certainty. Derek was a monster, and Jaxson Stone was the only person I could trust to stop him. We met at my apartment the first night I returned. The walls still smelled faintly of antiseptic, a lingering reminder of the accident, but I had insisted on returning. I needed my life back, even if pieces of it had been shattered beyond recognition. Are you ready for this? Jaxson asked, leaning against the doorway, his arms crossed. He looked effortless, calm, and terrifyingly competent, the kind of man who made you feel simultaneously safe and exposed. I don't know if anyone can be ready for what's coming, I admitted, my fingers tightening around the edge of the countertop. He's not just a cheater, he's been planning this for months. Years, maybe. That's why we have to move fast, Jaxson said, already pulling out a small tablet. I got copies of the emails, texts, phone records. Everything Derek used to discredit you. Everything he hoped would make you look unhinged. My stomach turned as I scrolled through the messages, Each one a calculated move to destroy my reputation, each one a vivid reminder of his betrayal. I can't believe I trusted him, I whispered, voice breaking. I loved him. You thought he deserved it, Jaxson said softly, stepping closer. But he doesn't. And neither do you. That man is dangerous. But you're brilliant, strategic, and he underestimated you completely. For hours, we plotted. Every move Derek had made, every rumor, every manipulated social interaction. We dissected it, countered it, and turned it into leverage. I realized that my anger, my pain, and my near-death experience weren't weaknesses. They were ammunition. At some point, our hands brushed as I reached for a document, and the air between us shifted. His eyes held mine longer than necessary, a dark, steady heat that made my pulse quicken. You're not supposed to be thinking about me right now, I said, forcing a small smile, trying to deflect the fluttering in my chest. I can't help it, he said, voice low. You've been through hell, and yet here you are. Fierce, smart, and alive. And I won't let anyone hurt you, not him, not anyone, including myself. My heart skipped. He wasn't just protecting me. He was claiming a space in my life I hadn't allowed anyone to enter since the betrayal. The thought terrified me and thrilled me at the same time. The first break in our plan came 2 nights later. Jaxson had hacked into Derek's email, capturing the precise messages and recorded calls detailing the lies he'd spun about my mental state. He's been trying to poison everyone against you, Jaxson said grimly, handing me the files. But now we have proof. Every word, every lie, every manipulation. I stared at the documents, rage and empowerment mixing into a dangerous cocktail. This is everything, I whispered. This is the evidence I need to fight back. Yes, Jaxson agreed, his hand brushing mine again, lingering slightly longer this time. And we're going to take him down. Every step, every move, together. For the first time since the garage collapse, I felt a spark of excitement. Not for revenge alone, but for the thrill of reclaiming my life, my dignity, and perhaps even my heart. As we reviewed the evidence late into the night, I noticed how naturally our partnership had become intimate, not just strategic, but emotional. He was blunt, unapologetic, and brutally honest, and yet I was drawn to him. You're dangerous, you know that? I teased lightly, trying to mask my awareness of the heat curling in my chest. I know, he said with a half-smile. And so are you. That's why I like working with you. I laughed softly, a sound I hadn't realized I missed. The old Brooklyn was gone. The new Brooklyn was here, smart, fearless, and ready to take back everything Derek had tried to steal. And maybe, just maybe, she was ready to let Jaxson in. The first time I faced Derek after the crash, I didn't feel fear. I felt electric. The rage that had simmered since the Bluetooth call now boiled into something sharper, clarity. I was no longer the broken, trusting wife. I was a strategist, armed with evidence and backed by Jaxson. He didn't recognize me at first. I walked into the office building with my head held high, heels clicking against the marble floors. Derek glanced up, surprise flashing across his face before he masked it with arrogance. Brooklyn, he said smoothly. I didn't expect you back so soon. Still recovering, I assume? I smiled, a slow, cold smile. I'm fully recovered, thank you. And I have a few things to discuss with you. Jaxson stepped forward, standing just behind me, a silent sentinel. His presence alone made Derek tense. What's this? Derek asked, his voice tight. Bringing your bodyguard along? Jaxson didn't answer. He didn't need to. The moment I pulled out the first set of evidence, the emails, the recordings, Derek's confident smirk faltered. You can't have these, he stammered, eyes darting to Jaxson. I already do, I said firmly. Every lie you've told, every attempt to ruin me, it's all here. And I'm going to make sure everyone sees it. Every client, every family member, everyone who matters. Derek's face twisted. Brooklyn, please. This is all a misunderstanding. You're overreacting. Overreacting? I echoed, my voice rising. You plotted to make me seem insane, to steal my reputation, and to leave me destitute. Do you call that a misunderstanding? Jaxson finally spoke, his tone cold and dangerous. You underestimated her. You underestimated what happens when someone with nothing left to lose decides to fight. You should have stayed in your lane, Derek. The confrontation was like a storm. Derek tried to argue, to charm, to lie, but every word was met with evidence, proof of his deceit. I watched as his carefully constructed world began to crumble. And in that moment, I realized something else. The man who had once held my heart in his hands no longer had any power over me. Every pang of loss I felt had been replaced by strength, control, and a sense of justice that felt exhilarating. After the meeting, as Derek slunk out, defeated, I exhaled, feeling the weight of months of fear and anxiety lift. I turned to Jaxson, who had been silent for most of the confrontation, observing my strength and resilience. You are incredible, he said quietly, a rare softness in his voice. Every word, every move, perfect. I felt a warmth spread through me. I couldn't have done it without you, I admitted, lowering my guard slightly. He stepped closer, his hand brushing mine again, lingering this time without the guise of professionalism. You didn't need me, he said, but I'm glad I was there.
For you.
For us. My pulse quickened, and for the first time since Derek's betrayal, I allowed myself to feel something tender, something hopeful. The old Brooklyn, fragile and manipulated, was gone. The new Brooklyn, fierce and alive, was standing before him, and she was ready to live and to love on her own terms. As we left the office together, Jackson's hand found mine, and I didn't pull away. There would be time for rebuilding, time for strategy, time for love. And for the first time in months, I believed that the future was mine to claim. The morning sun had barely risen when Jaxson and I arrived at the law office. My hands were steady, my pulse calm, the calm of someone who had spent weeks preparing for this moment. The evidence was compiled, organized, and irrefutable. Every lie Derek had told, every scheme he had orchestrated, was now a weapon in my hands. Jaxson leaned over the table, his dark eyes scanning the pile of documents. Once we hand this over, it's going to hit him like a freight train, he said. There's no wiggle room. He's done. I nodded, swallowing a lump in my throat. I want it over, I admitted. I want him to understand that betrayal has consequences. You'll get that, Jaxson said softly. Then, almost as an afterthought, he added, and maybe you'll get more than just justice. I raised an eyebrow at him. What do you mean? He gave a faint smirk.
You'll see.
But first, let's make sure he never hurts anyone again. The attorney was efficient, professional, and thorough. She reviewed the evidence, cross-referenced it with additional financial records, and assured us that Derek's manipulation, his attempts to paint me as mentally unstable, and the falsified reports were more than enough to initiate criminal proceedings. I watched her work and felt a strange sense of power. For so long, I had been the victim, the one manipulated, the one underestimated. But now I was the strategist, the one taking control. Every document in that stack represented a step toward freedom and toward reclaiming my life. When the paperwork was filed, I exhaled, feeling the tension drain from my shoulders. Jaxson reached over, brushing my hand with his. The warmth of his touch was grounding, comforting, a stark contrast to the cold rage I had carried for months. You did it, he said quietly, his gaze holding mine. You're done being a victim. No, I corrected, a small smile tugging at my lips. We did it. Together. There was a moment of silence, broken only by the faint hum of office activity around us. And then Jaxson leaned closer, his voice dropping to a level just for me. You know, you've been incredible through all of this. Smart, fierce, alive. And I can't stop thinking about you. My pulse quickened. I had felt the sparks before in hospital rooms and therapy sessions, but now, standing here with him, I allowed myself to acknowledge them fully. Jaxson. My words faltered, but the truth was there. I wanted him. I trusted him. He didn't give me a chance to overthink it. His lips met mine in a kiss that was gentle, yet insistent. It wasn't rushed or clumsy, it was a promise. A declaration that he was here, fully, without judgment or conditions. Pulling back slightly, he rested his forehead against mine. We'll take down Derek, and then we'll figure out the rest. You and me. I nodded, feeling a thrill of hope and something deeper, something I hadn't allowed myself in years.
Love.
Real, solid, and mutual. That afternoon, news spread. Derek was under investigation, his schemes unraveling before anyone could cover them up. Socially, professionally, legally, the empire he thought he had built on deceit was crumbling. And I was at the center of it, not as a victim, but as the force orchestrating his downfall. Later, as we drove back to my apartment, Jaxson reached over, fingers brushing mine, holding it gently. You know, he said softly, I've been hired to spy on you, but I switched sides.
For you.
Because you deserved someone honest. I smiled, leaning my head against a shoulder. I guess we both got lucky then, I murmured. He chuckled softly. Or maybe it's just the beginning. And I believed him. Because for the first time in months, my heart wasn't racing from fear. It was racing from possibility, from love, from justice, and from the life I was finally taking back. The news hit social media and the local papers like a storm. Derek Pierce, once admired for his charm and business acumen, was being publicly exposed for fraud, manipulation, and an elaborate scheme to ruin me. Watching it unfold from the safety of my apartment, with Jaxson by my side, felt surreal. He leaned against the kitchen counter, arms crossed, eyes scanning the headlines. Feels good, doesn't it? He asked, his voice low but teasing. I nodded, a small, victorious smile tugging at my lips. It feels freeing. I never realized how heavy that fear had been, sitting on my chest every day. Jaxson reached over, brushing a loose strand of hair from my face. You deserve this. Not just the victory, but the chance to live your life on your terms. I felt warmth rise in my chest at the tenderness behind his words. This man, who had been sent to spy on me, had become my partner in every sense. Fierce, honest, and unafraid to match my fire with his own. Do you think I can trust myself to trust someone again? I asked quietly, my voice barely above a whisper. Jackson's gaze softened. You're already trusting me, aren't you? He offered a faint smile. It's not about blindly giving your heart. It's about choosing someone who's willing to fight with you, for you and only you. I nodded slowly, letting the truth sink in. I had been betrayed by the man I loved, manipulated by his lies. But now, with Jaxson, the air was different, clear, honest, and steady. In the following weeks, Derek's legal troubles escalated. Evidence we had gathered, recorded calls, financial documents, proof of conspiracy, was irrefutable. Derek's attempts to discredit me collapsed spectacularly. And throughout it all, Jaxson remained a constant. Not just a partner in strategy, but a partner in life. One evening, as we reviewed the final legal documents that would ensure Derek's permanent downfall, Jaxson leaned back in his chair, eyes studying me. You know, he said softly, all this fighting, it's over now. He can't touch you, your reputation, or your life ever again. I let out a long, relieved breath. It's hard to believe that this is finally done, that I can actually move forward. He stepped closer, hand brushing mine gently. Then let's do it. Move forward. Together. For the first time in months, I allowed myself to smile fully, unguarded. Not the cautious, measured smile I wore for the world, but a genuine one, radiating relief, strength, and hope. Over the next few months, life began to settle into a rhythm of trust and love. Jaxson and I built routines, shared quiet dinners, and enjoyed moments of laughter without fear or suspicion. He was blunt and direct, but he was also tender in ways I hadn't anticipated, gentle touches, soft words, and a consistent presence that spoke volumes. One evening, as the city lights flickered outside my window, Jaxson took my hand. Brooklyn, he said quietly, I'm not going anywhere, and I want to be part of everything you build, in business, in life, and in love. I squeezed his hand, letting the warmth sink in. I want that too, I whispered. I trust you, Jaxson. And I think I love you. His lips curved into a rare, soft smile, and he pulled me close, letting me rest my head against his chest.
Good.
Because I've loved you since the moment I decided to switch sides. And I'll spend every day making sure you know it. In that moment, the chaos, the betrayal, and the near-death experience all seemed like a distant storm. I had survived. I had fought, and I had chosen love, honest, fierce, and unwavering. For the first time in years, I wasn't just surviving. I was alive. Fully, completely, and with the man who had become my anchor, my partner, and my heart. By the time spring arrived, the city felt alive with possibility, and so did I. The legal battles were winding down. Derek was officially disgraced and facing charges, and the cloud of betrayal that had once hung over me had finally lifted. I was free to rebuild, free to thrive, and free to love. Jaxson and I spent our mornings at my apartment, working side by side. He wasn't just my protector or strategist anymore. He was my partner in every sense. We pored over new business ideas, drafted plans, and even indulged in small, private victories. Brunches where we laughed at ridiculous Instagram posts, quiet walks along the river, and evenings spent curled up with a book or a movie. You've changed so much, Jaxson said one morning, handing me a coffee. And not just because Derek is gone. You're stronger, smarter, sharper, and you still manage to surprise me. I took a sip, feeling the warmth of the coffee seep into my chest. I guess surviving almost dying and being betrayed tends to do that, I replied with a small laugh. I feel different, wiser, and, strangely, calmer. He leaned against the counter, eyes dark with admiration. You're beautiful, Brooklyn. Inside and out. And I mean that honestly, not because I'm biased.
Heat rose to my cheeks.
You're not supposed to say things like that during business meetings, I teased, though the smile on my lips betrayed me. Why not, he countered, stepping closer. You've earned it. You've earned someone who sees you, really sees you, and isn't afraid to tell you. The tension between us had been simmering for months, subtle glances, lingering touches, and quiet conversations late at night. But now, with Derek's shadow gone, the way was clear. Love was no longer something dangerous or forbidden. It was real, mutual, and safe. One evening, after a long day of wrapping up Derek's legal case, Jaxson and I sat on the balcony overlooking the city. The lights flickered below, a gentle reminder of life moving forward, of possibilities yet to come. Do you ever think about what life would have been like if I hadn't switched sides? He asked softly. I leaned against him, resting my head on his shoulder. I don't want to. I don't want to imagine a world without you. You were my guardian, my strategist, and eventually my heart. I can't picture moving forward without you. He kissed the top of my head, slow and tender.
Good.
Because I don't plan on leaving. Ever. I want to be here. Every step, every victory, every quiet night like this. I closed my eyes, letting his words settle into my soul. I love you, Jaxson. And I feel safe. Fully, completely safe. He pulled back slightly, eyes locking with mine. I love you too. And I'll spend every day making sure you always feel that way. The romance that had grown quietly amid chaos now bloomed fully. Our love was honest, unshakable, and built on mutual respect, trust, and the kind of raw honesty that only comes from surviving betrayal together. I had reclaimed my life, my reputation, and my heart. And in Jaxson, I had found the partner I had always deserved, someone who matched my intelligence, my strength, and my passion. That night, under the city lights, we kissed again, slow and deliberate, sealing not just our love, but the promise of a life rebuilt, a heart healed, and a future forged together. The old Brooklyn, fearful, betrayed, and silenced, was gone. The new Brooklyn, alive, fierce, and in love, had finally taken her place. And this time, She wasn't letting go of anything that mattered, especially not Jaxson Stone. The months that followed Derek's downfall felt surreal, like stepping into a life I had only dared to dream about while trapped in betrayal and fear. The city had regained its rhythm, and so had I. My apartment, once filled with echoes of doubt and anxiety, now resonated with laughter, warmth, and the gentle hum of a life reclaimed. Jaxson and I had settled into a rhythm that felt effortless yet profound. Mornings were spent over coffee and strategic planning, afternoons dedicated to personal projects and shared goals, and evenings were ours alone, quiet, tender, and intimate. He had become more than my protector. He was my anchor, my confidant, my love. "You're impossible to get used to," I teased one evening as he leaned against the kitchen counter, flipping through a document with his usual intensity. "I could say the same about you," he replied with a smirk, eyes twinkling with mischief and something deeper. "But somehow, I like it. I like us." I smiled, feeling warmth creep into my chest.
Us.
That's the word, isn't it? I never thought I'd be able to say it without fear. But now, I can. I trust it. I trust you. He closed the distance between us, brushing a strand of hair from my face. "And I trust you. With everything." We had rebuilt my life, yes, but we had also built a love founded on radical honesty, mutual respect, and a shared resilience forged in the fire of betrayal. The scars of Derek's lies and schemes remained, but they no longer dictated my future. They were reminders of the strength I had found in myself and in the man who had chosen to fight for me. One weekend, we took a trip to the countryside, a quiet, secluded retreat where the world outside seemed to disappear. We walked hand in hand along winding paths, laughed over silly stories, and shared long, easy silences that spoke volumes. It was in these moments that I realized the depth of what we had built together. "Do you ever think about how far we've come?" I asked, resting my head against his shoulder as we watched the sun dip below the hills. "All the time," he said softly. "And every day I'm grateful I found you, not just because I switched sides, but because I got to see the real you. The strong, brilliant, unstoppable you." I laughed quietly, brushing my fingers against his hand. "The unstoppable me. I like the sound of that." He smiled, tugging me closer. "And I'll be here. Every step, every challenge, every victory. Together. That's my promise." I closed my eyes, letting the serenity of the moment and the certainty of his words wash over me. The fear, the betrayal, the near-death experience, all of it had led me here, to a life I had chosen, to a love I had earned. Later, back in the city, we celebrated quietly. Not with grand gestures or public displays, but with the comfort of knowing we were finally free, free from the shadows of the past, free to love fully, and free to build a life on our own terms. Jaxson kissed me softly that night, lingering in a way that spoke volumes. "Happily ever after," he murmured. "Yes," I replied, resting my forehead against his. "It's real this time, and it's ours." The old Brooklyn, trapped in deceit and fear, was gone. The new Brooklyn thrived, strong, confident, and deeply in love with a man who valued her mind, her heart, and her soul equally. Together, we had reclaimed everything: our lives, our love, and our future. And for the first time in years, I felt completely, undeniably, unshakably whole.